Good morning, Rose Bowl families. We're going to start with just kind of a little slideshow of our two honored guests this morning, Olivia Smaliga and Natalie Hines.
Hello.
So we'll just watch this. All right, so I like that last one of you guys for this one. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody, and thank you both so much for joining us. To our Rose Bowl families, it's an honor to introduce Olivia and Natalie, both of which I had an opportunity to meet and work with this past year with the Cali Condors. And I have to tell you, these are two of my favorites. With their love of the team, the genuine care for others, the enjoyment of the sport they show every day, and just the overall zest for life, it's hard to be around them and not appreciate the positive energy that they bring to everyone around them. For Olivia Smaliga from Glenview, Illinois, Olivia's career really broke out in 2012 when she was still in high school. She finished 4th at the Olympic trials that year, before moving on to the University of Georgia and still training with the Bulldogs today. 3-time NCAA champion in the freestyles, Olivia also holds the American records in the 50 and 100 short course meter backstrokes. In 2016, Olivia earned the title of U.S. Olympian by winning the 100 backstroke at the U.S. trials, and then went on to earn a gold medal on the relay, swimming the prelim backstroke leg for the U.S. Thank you, Olivia, so much for joining us. It's such an honor. Our second guest this morning. Sorry.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry, thank you.
No, you're good.
Our second guest this morning is Natalie Hines. She is originally from Midland, Texas. Natalie has had a bit of a different story, spending her college career as one of Olivia's rivals over at the University of Florida, where she enjoyed a fantastic collegiate career. The Gator amassed 20 All-American titles, finishing as high as 3rd place, as you saw in the picture at NC2As. Natalie also won 3 SEC individual titles, and if you aren't aware, that has to be the most competitive conference meet you'll see. But after finishing career in 2016 and racing at trials that summer, Natalie called it a career, or so she thought. So now she's training alongside Olivia, or hopes to be back doing so soon, I'm sure, at Georgia, and enjoying her comeback. We'll hear more about that later, but I want to thank them both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so we'll start with kind of the more obvious, where we are now with this unprecedented time, but hopefully coming back soon. Quarantine is tough on everyone, and everyone's having kind of the ups and downs, and especially when you are so committed to a passion that you can't commit the same way. I'd love to hear how you guys are approaching quarantine. I've followed along social media and that stuff, and it seems like you've kept your spirits up and the same energy as normal. So what have you been up to?
I've been at home. I know Nat has been at home as well. And sorry, my dog is like, okay. I've been at home, and it's been really nice because I'm chilling with my brother, obviously my parents too. But you're right. I think it's about keeping your spirits high. And what Nat and I always tell ourselves is the only thing we can control is our attitude, our approach to everything that we do. Like, there are so many things that are out of our control right now. We're not in our routine. and we love our routine. I'm sure many of you swimmers do too. It's like practice, school, practice, and you know exactly what you should be doing all the time. Oh, thank you. Exactly what you should be doing all the time. Coffee. Okay. And so when all of that is kind of disrupted and your goals are kind of put on hold, it's very unsettling, especially because as swimmers, you know, everything is goal oriented for us. But with all that to say, I think that this time has never happened, obviously, you know, worldwide. And so it's really important to appreciate it as a time of rest, even though it may be hard to see it that way. And really like reflect on everything that's kind of been going on. But yeah, I've just been trying to stay positive. I like to rest, so I don't mind that I'm like doing that right now. But you know, hopefully we get back to it soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Natalie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Liv said, I'm at home too with my parents. And it's actually been really great. Like obviously home cooked meals are the best by mom. And like Liv said, we always talk about that. The only thing we can control is our attitude. And to be honest, like to say it is one thing and to practice it in a controlled environment, which was our routine, is another. But when this situation comes about and, you know, it's starting to get bad and you're like, okay, well, we're fine. Like we can still do this and do that. And then when everything's like basically taken away from you and like you decide like, okay, I'm going to go home. My routine looks a lot different. Like, you know, when you decide like, okay, well, I can't swim anymore. It's like, that's when your attitude and your approach to the situation is really tested because it's, you know, there's so many other variables than getting up at like whatever time you have to get up for practice or the set or what day it is. And it's kind of like, you have to find the internal motivation for that. And that's definitely been something that like has been put to the test for me, really controlling my attitude. Like, you know, some days are better than others. And I'm sure it's the same with a lot of you guys. Like one day, like, okay, yeah, this is fine. And the next day, like, oh my God, like where's the nearest pool, you know? So just ways that I try and stay engaged is I have changed my routine, but I still try to keep one. And I think that's really helped. I try and keep it similar. Obviously I can't swim like I was before, but try and wake up at the same time. I just try and lean on my parents and I lean on my friends, FaceTime, you know, obviously try and talk to them as much as possible. So those are just kind of a couple things that I've been doing just to like keep a little normalcy.
That's great. I mean, both of you guys had such amazing points. Routines, you guys talk about it. I didn't really learn the need for routine and really kind of fought it actually until later in life, actually. Yeah. Followed it because I had to for swimming and everything. But once I didn't have a routine, that's when I kind of fell apart and didn't notice it until later. And you guys are right on top of it. I love it. And hopefully our swimmers will learn that much earlier than I did. No, that's great. And controlling your mindsets are huge. We've tried to kind of push that along the whole way. We talk a lot about process within the team. So we try to push that mindset a lot. So I want to talk more about that. But Natalie, you have a little side hustle, right? I didn't want to go by without you have tapestries that you're doing?
Oh yeah, I make tapestries. I started off as like, I mean, it's still a hobby of mine. I just kind of like sell them on the side. But when I, like, as you mentioned, like I came back to the sport. So when I had nationals last summer, obviously the anxiety starts to set in and a lot of my teammates like Liv and Mel and all of them were gone for Worlds. So it was kind of like just me trying to deal with all these emotions. And so one way that I would offset those emotions is to just get my mind off of it, and weaving was something that I taught myself how to do. So I really enjoy it. And honestly, like, of course, during this crazy time, like I'm doing it all the time because it really helps pass the time and I really enjoy it. So yeah, I do that quite often.
That's amazing. That's great. I didn't realize that was kind of the driving force behind it.
Yeah.
Cool. So with that, you guys are both very resilient, strong swimmers and bouncing back from anything thrown your way. During this time, quarantine, I know our swimmers are feeling that and having to find that resiliency to bounce back or that grit to kind of push through. Can you guys share some stories that you've learned through your swimming or life experiences of how kind of you learn how to build or grow that resiliency?
I can start. I think at the time when you're struggling or you failed in maybe not reaching your goal, or you had even a bad set or bad practice, a bad day, in the moment you're like, this is like never going to end, you know? And I think like that negative feeling, sorry, I'm distracted by my dog, but she went away. I'm sorry. I think what failure has taught me the most in retrospect of everything that I've been through is that is one of the biggest blessings that I could have had. Or failures, you know, perceived failures. So it's like I might not reach a goal time, or might not get the place that I wanted at a meet or a competition. But obviously to someone else it may be great, but to me, I think all swimmers individually are pretty hard on themselves some of the time. And I think it's really important to be grateful regardless of the failures that you may perceive that you have. And I think whenever you go through like the ebbs and flows and those, especially those downfalls, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself as a person in the hard times as opposed to the good times. Because when everything's going good, you're like, I'm chilling, like this is so great. But when it's bad, it's like when you really have to kind of reflect, look at yourself in the mirror, what I always say, and hold yourself accountable, because maybe you could have been doing something that you hadn't been doing, you know, throughout season. Haven't been really being honest with yourself at practice, or what you're eating, or how much you're sleeping, how much you're recovering. I mean, like so much goes into it. And so in those failures, I think I learned the most about myself, and it's made me resilient, because I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. You know, I'm not going to stop. I have a goal in mind that I want to achieve, and I will do whatever I can to get there. And so it's easy to be negative. Nat and I always talk about this. Like, it is so easy to be negative. It is so easy to quote unquote give up. Not that we ever have given up, because, you know, we're still here. We are still rocking, but it's really definitely easy to be like, oh, dang, this is a bummer. I'm feeling so sore. I'm so tired. I can't get through this set. Like, it's so easy to be like on that low energy, like wave, but it takes a lot of strength to be like, no, you can do this, you know, and it really has to like pick yourself up when you're having a tough time. And I mean, throughout my years, I think like that resiliency has just grown. And especially during this time, I'm like, I've like been through it, you know, I've had hard times. Like, this is nothing to me. As long as I approach it with a positive mindset, it's like, why would I be sitting here anxious and stressed out and be so hard on myself with everything that's going around me that I literally cannot control, rather than being like, you know what, eventually things will be back to normal. My base, you know, I've worked hard my whole life to this point where when I get back, I'll be chilling. So I think it's just the way that you approach everything in your daily life, like builds resiliency, and gives you a strong mind and gives you a strong mindset to everything that you do. And I mean, you guys have the GOAT as your coach. I mean, like, he is the guy. He is the resilient one, the one who taught us about hope, the one who taught us about faith.
There
like,
she goes. Talk about hope.
if you guys don't have anyone that you look up to, this guy should be the one that you look up to. I mean, when he spoke to us when we had our meeting with the Cali Condors, I mean,
wasn't a dry eye in the room now.
Oh my God. I mean, you guys listen to him and you're like, why would I ever complain about anything that's going on in my life? How much worse could it be for me? Or how much harder could it be for me to get through something? Like, this guy never gave up. And look at, like, he's just one of the most motivational people I've ever come across. And it just shows you how like beautiful life is. You can get through it if you believe that you can get through it, you know?
Awesome. Well, thank you. That means a lot.
Wow, she really just
Of
did
course.
that.
Yeah, you can follow up on that.
Is it that me? Is it my time to follow up?
That's you now.
So I guess I would say, like, when I think of resiliency, I think of, or like when I'm having a tough time, I would like to think of the young me and then the future me. So the young me, like, didn't have any distractions. And when I say young, I mean like a child. Like, I was very, very intense as a child. I was going to win. Like, obviously I wasn't going to cheat to win, but I was going to win. And I didn't care what it took to get there. Like, they would maybe have to like pull me out of the pool before I decided to stop. Those types of things. Like, it's crazy, but it's kind of like, that's what that's the inner drive kind of that you have to have if you want to reach your goals. And so in my current state, like either whether it's in quarantine or like before this when we were practicing and I'm having a tough time, like Liv said, like, oh, I'm sore, I'm tired, you know, I haven't missed a practice in 2 months. Let me just go ahead and sleep in. Like during those times, I think about my future self, and I think about like my goals. If I want to make the Olympic team, or if, you know, if I want to go a special goal time or something, for me to like visualize myself doing that, I also mentally think about it, like, what is my mental like? And my mental is telling me, like, I know I did everything that I could to make it to this point. So when I have those tough times, I always think about my future self, and I'm like, will I say thank you to me now? Like, and so I always am like, well, let me get out of bed, because the moment that I sleep in is the moment that it makes it easier and easier for you mentally to just keep giving yourself excuses. And so I always like to think of just nipping it in the bud, and always thinking about in the future, are you going to thank yourself now for what you did? And once I heard that, I think is kind of what really helped me get through you know, like maybe a tough training cycle where you're not doing as well as you thought, or if you're just feeling fatigued and you really just want to give up. So I often think about the future. I don't like having regrets. Obviously, that's why I came back to the sport, because I felt as if I was going to really just have one large regret in my heart for the rest of my life. So I'm big on thinking about the future and how that's going to change, because all of your decisions now will affect yourself in the future, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. So I think that's a good way to think about it. So like in quarantine, for example, like there's obviously, you need to give yourself grace, but if you're willing and you're able to do the things you need to do to get better, like working on weaknesses is perfect for this time. I don't know who needs to hear that, but it is. So like, you know, working on weaknesses, it's like, I want to be able to do this by the time I go back to practice. And say you have a day where you're like, well, I don't really need to work on it. It's like, think about when you go back to practice, are you going to thank yourself that you were able to do that? And if the answer is yes, then you keep going. And if you're, you know, you just kind of have to hold yourself accountable like that. And to be honest, it takes practice. Like, it's not like you just do it once, you're like, okay, I'm good. It's an ongoing thing that you have to do. So those are just the kind of things that I think about when things are hard. And I guess that builds resiliency and that builds grit.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just have one more thing to add. I had a conversation with my brother, and I mean, Nat and I, we get deep, we get like philosophical, you know, we talk about the big picture and like how the world around us is like, you know, signs, all that stuff. But I had a conversation with my brother, and it was like talking about resiliency and talking about, you know, maybe making those excuses. Although I am a big believer in rest, recovery, and really taking, like Nat said, having grace with yourself and being like, you know what, I'm really not like mentally up for this right now, especially during this time of quarantine. You know, I think it is, like I said earlier, a blessing of rest and reflection that all of us should really take. But at the same time, so the conversation that I had was like, let's say you have a goal in a year that you want to achieve. And in the grand scheme of things, hopefully you live a long and fruitful life, right? You just have to devote 8 to 10 to 12 months of doing everything possible that you can do in order to, like, what is it that I think Muhammad Ali said, like, live the rest of your life as a champion, right? So you just, 1 year or 1 month that you dedicate yourself to doing everything possible to reach a goal. And then it's just like, to me, it's just like, it's just 1 year. Like, I can cut out sweets, or I can go to bed at 9 p.m. for just 1 year. And then I can like do whatever I want after that year's over, after I reach that goal. But like Nat said, it's like when you get to your taper meet or Olympic trials or the Olympics, and you step up behind the blocks and you're like, you know what? Like, thank you for everything that you did. I did everything I could. There is nothing left for me to do here but race. The worst thing you can have behind the blocks is doubt. Like, oh, I shouldn't have done that or whatever. It's like, just in my mind, it's like, it's just 1 year, you know, or it's just a couple months. You can do it. You can just do it. And then, you know, we're so young. Like all you guys club swimmers right now, you're so young. I mean, I think I'm still so young. Like in my 50s, in my 60s, I'll be like, oh, like I really did that when I was young, and now I get to live the rest of my life knowing I achieved the goals that I wanted to at the time in my life that I did.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, both of you guys have so much to offer. I really hope our swimmers are listening.
We're so
And I'll tell you, I mean, you talk about rest. You talk about recovery. I think those things are huge. And I personally have been talking to some coaches. I think we're going to see actually some big drops in times when we get back into normalcy and get some training behind us. I don't think it's going to take long. I think all the hard work that the swimmers, that this swimming community puts in, is going to come out, right? Even with this break in there. So I think it'll be a fun year once we get rolling again. And I'm excited to watch both of you.
Thank you.
Olivia, I've learned a little bit more about your career going through, and it follows right up with the resiliency. You got pretty sick in college. That impacted a summer really well, but then even your college year wasn't the same level as you'd been previously or you were later. How did you handle kind of that health process, and was it hard?
Yes, it was very hard. And it was one of those moments, like I was saying, you know, looking yourself in the mirror and being like, did you do everything you could have done? I mean, are you going to blame, you know? And I got sick after my college season. So my college season was just, in my opinion, bad, just bad. I mean, compared to what I did my freshman year, you know, I won the 50 my freshman year. My sophomore year, I got 8th, right? So you go from first to last in the A final, and it's just like a slap in the face because, you know, you think that you did everything that you could have done, or you didn't really do much different than your freshman year, or for me, my freshman year, the year before. And then after just like that disappointing feeling, I kind of had to, you know, take a look in the mirror and be like, like, I don't think you did everything you could have done in terms of eating healthy. You know, maybe I was, you know, hanging out too much with friends, staying up too late. You know what I mean? Doing those things doing the college, you know, just stuff. I really wasn't holding myself accountable in terms of like my athletic career. And so that was really tough. And then I got mono like in May or April or May or something like that, in the summer, or leading into the summer. I think it was like World Trials. It was 2015 and I didn't make the team. But yeah, it was just really tough. But it was one of those things where it's like, dang, like you really didn't, there are things you could have done or things you maybe shouldn't have done in order to help your career. And I mean, I'm happy I learned that lesson. You know, everything in life that happens to you, you really shouldn't think of it as good or bad, although it is very hard to think of it that way. That's like the philosophical, you know, you shouldn't think of it as good or bad. You should think of it as it was meant to happen to you. Everything that is happening to you is just trying to teach you something, trying to help you grow, trying to help you evolve. Like, so if it's a bad thing that happened to you and that happens to make you uncomfortable, you're not going to grow if you're comfortable. You have to be uncomfortable to grow. So whether it's a hard set or a hard practice and you're like burning up, you know, muscles tired, like legs dying, you know that you are growing in that moment because you're so uncomfortable. And so in retrospect, I mean, at the time I was like, this is so unfair. Why me? Like, I should have made the team. I should have been on that team. I should have been going to Worlds, whatever. In retrospect now, I was like, this is just trying to teach me something, trying to help me grow and trying to help me evolve. And that's how I take every single thing that I do or every single thing that I go through. I try to think of it that way.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that in more detail than I was aware of, for sure.
Oh yeah.
So ISL season was amazing, and you as captain was incredible to bring the energy that obviously you bring. Looking at all the results, and if I was to pick a word for the ISL season, I'd pick a competitor in terms of just watching you race over and over and over again and just competing every time. How do you mentally prepare? I mean, you're a sprint freestyler. the backstrokes right now are intensely close with a lot of people.
Yes.
How do you prepare for that mentally in your races?
Yeah, so thank you for that. Being a co-captain was really awesome. But I mean, I had Nat by my side all the time. I felt like we were co-captain to the co-captain, you know what I mean? So it was awesome. And to be honest, it was a team effort. I mean, everyone had a voice. It wasn't like just one person who seemed to be the leader or whatever and spoke for everyone. No, it wasn't even like that. Like everyone wanted to say something. I mean, we have superstars on our team. We had Lily King, Kelsey Worrell. I mean, list goes on and on. Mitch Larkin, Ariane Timmis. Like we had so many superstars, so many incredible people. Everyone really had a voice, and that energy is what made me want to be competitive. Obviously, I have the competitiveness within me because I'm an athlete and I like to race. I like to win. But that energy, I mean, that atmosphere was just something that I hadn't really seen besides SECs, for example. SECs, our conference championship was like electric, right? But I mean, it was like SECs or a conference championship or like an NCAA championship on steroids. I mean, especially when we were in Italy. I mean, y'all, I don't know if you saw your coach in the stands. I mean, wet from head to toe, shirt soaked, like he was hyping us up. And that's just the kind of energy that we had. I mean, from everyone on the team. Everyone just wanted to see everyone succeed. And the way that I get up and race is just, I mean, I trust in everything that I've done. I trust in all my training. And I just love to get up and race. I feed off the atmosphere. I feed off the energy. And you're absolutely right. The backstroke is very competitive at this time. So is freestyle. So are all of the events, that anyone is in right now, because it's a very important year. You're going into Olympic trials. You want to make the Olympic team. You want to represent your country. But even more than that, it's like you look at all these incredible swimmers, some that may be faster than you in certain events, and it should inspire you. I think it's taken me a bit to get there. In terms of saying like, oh, people who are faster than you should inspire you. Because at the time it was like, well, I definitely worked that hard. I put in the hours, I put in the work. Like, why am I not that fast? Or why have I not reached this certain level or whatever, in anything in life, right? And I look at it and I'm like, no, you can work even harder, or you can switch something up. And that should just inspire you to be better rather than being like, that guy's the worst or whatever. Like, you should look at it as an inspiration and be like, it's just, you see something great happening, whether it's a teammate just giving you a high five, right? And you see that happening like on another team. A teammate gives another teammate a high five. And you think to yourself, you're like, why do they have that? And this is like a weird example, but it's like you think and you're like, why do they have such a good relationship? Or why are they so friendly with each other? Rather than giving your teammate a high five and having that relationship on your team or something, it should just be like inspiring to you. But it's taken me time to feel that way. I have not always felt this way. But did I answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. You did
okay.
Question plus.
Okay.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Natalie, you mentioned comeback. You mentioned coming back and not having a regret, actually. Can you share a little bit about kind of what brought you back and that avoidance of that regret?
Yeah. Wait, what was the last bit of
just avoiding the regret and wanting to come back and actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like 2016, like you said, that was like my last year of swimming, and I didn't know if I wanted to come back. I just knew I didn't want to swim. So I just kind of like fell off the map. I just like slowly just kind of left, and I graduated. And like for me, I think I was telling myself the next step in my life is to get a 9-to-5. Like that's just like what I had seen happen. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna find happiness doing other things, because at the time swimming wasn't giving me happiness. I wasn't seeing any success. I was just felt like every time I stepped behind the blocks, I literally was thinking like, okay, like how bad is it gonna be this time? And like trials was really like the pinnacle of like my unhappiness, which is so sad when I look back on it, because like I know it's a crazy meet, but you should never feel like that. like your sport should always be fun. But anyways, I got an amazing internship and I moved to Atlanta for a year. I had that internship and then I got a job from it. And I mean, I was happy and I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. I hadn't spoke about swimming for like a year and a half. And then I caught I caught Summer Nationals of I think it was 2018, I want to say. Yeah. And that was like the first time I had seen swimming since trials. And it was kind of just weird for me because I had just like put swimming away on the back burner. It was just kind of a harsh subject for me to talk about just because I knew I could have done so much better. And I just like really let the distractions get to me. But, and that's what I talk about with regret. It was like, I knew I wanted to swim again, but it's like really hard to like look at yourself in the mirror and like admit exactly what you want. But eventually I was able to do that. And so within like a month and a half, I had decided I wanted to swam with masters, got into shape enough to like move to Athens. And I decided to go to UGA because one, it was really close. And two, it's obviously one of the most successful programs in the country ever.
Hey.
And Jack is amazing. And he's always been so gracious towards me. And has always been like, if you need anything, let me know. So, I had his number. I called him. I said, well, I need something, like I need help. And so he was so happy to have me come join. And I moved down like within the week and started training. And so like that whole process, like from then till now, so it's been about almost 2 years. Well, it's been like a year and a half-ish. Yeah. That whole process really taught me that if you and your gut feeling have a feeling that like I want to do this or I don't want to do that, I would listen to it, because now when I have those feelings, I listen to them and it always turns out to be right for me. It's like I always had this like deep gut feeling like, you really know you should probably be swimming. You probably shouldn't be sitting at a desk from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. And had I not listened to it, I think I would have been a lot more unhappy, and it might have manifested itself in different ways. But I absolutely love my life now. I got to go to Italy with my best friends. Like, who gets to say that, And you get to like compete. And of course I was super nervous. Like my first meets back, like, are people going to judge me? Cause I literally popped off the scene. Then I came back 2 years later and just kind of popped on the scene. And, some of those worries are what I had, but every day, even in the hard days, it's like, I sit there on the edge of my bed and I'm like, you could be at a 9 to 5. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting up because like, this is exactly what I want to do. And, you never know unless you try. And I don't, I know what I want to happen in the future, but I can't predict the future. But it's, like you never know until you try. And this experience has been amazing in terms of like the people I've met, the experiences that I've got. And in just a year and a half, I've literally been to 3 different countries. And I was like, okay, well, the alternative to that like would have been bleak. So that's kind of just where I'm at now. I just have a new outlook on the sport, and I'm in a much better place in terms of like knowing what I want to do and what I want to get out of the sport. And it's just taught me a lot about myself. And that was what I wasn't prepared for. I was just like, I'm going to go swim and I want to do this and this. But to be honest, it's like changed me more than I thought it would instead of the sport. So I'm really happy with my decision. So the moral of the story is
me too.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be learned along the way, and I try to share with the swimmers. There's a lot of times professional swimmers kind of share they found the joy in swimming again.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, and it sounds similar to you, you've actually found the joy in the process and what you do day to day, and challenging yourself to reach, so that at the end, you've done everything you can and you just raced, right? Versus being so focused on the results themselves that it takes the enjoyment out of everything at times.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think it has a lot to do with your teammates. And so a lot of you guys who are watching, you make more of a difference than you think you do. Liv and I are both very intense people. I would say that I tend to tunnel vision a little bit more than she does. Like, she's able to put things in perspective more than I am. And that's like, everybody has like parts of their personality or character that, this is that and that is this. But In terms of the way we feed off of each other, that's why like you always see us together or we're always having fun because not that we're opposites because we're not, I wouldn't say that we're opposites, but we really mesh well together in terms of when I came back to swim, I brought an energy that she didn't have at the time. And so she was able to feed off of that. And she came, like she was swimming with a perspective and a focus that I never had either. And so every day and I tell my mom this, I'm like, so I'm 26 now, but my 25th year of life was honestly like to date so far was like my favorite year because you could have looked at us any point during that period of time. We were having so much fun. And like, not to say we didn't have hard days or not to say that like we're going at it against each other in like a 50 set or a race set, but like once the set's over, we're good. But it's like, we're in the set to make each other better. We make it fun for each other. We always find, you know, like if one of us is getting too serious or one of us is getting too tunnel vision, the other one knows like, okay, it's time to like, hey, like, how's it going? Like, I was trying to like,
hey, you
know,
good
like,
over there? You good?
yeah, like I, you know, and at meets and stuff, I find myself like balling up, getting very tight. And that's just an example, but all that to say, like your teammates, guys out there who were listening, you really do make more of a difference than you think you do with your teammates in terms of, you know, giving that word of encouragement, giving that high five, taking the time to hear how someone's race went. Like those things really do go far. And that's how you have fun with the sport. And that's how you like keep the love for the sport, because before pre-2016, I wasn't doing anything that I'm doing now. I wasn't like really finding the joy in the sport. And honestly, that's like such a game changer. So I would just like to have said that. So.
Oh my God, that like makes me miss practice so bad.
Yeah, honestly, I miss practice. And like Liv,
Yeah.
Liv and I were talking yesterday. She's like, I just miss Ramsey. I'm like, and Ramsey's the pool that we practice at.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Is Georgia's somewhat soon, right? Is it gonna?
I don't know about Ramsey, but
Okay.
maybe another pool, but
Okay.
not Ramsey.
All right. Thank you. I mean, both of your insights on these things are amazing. We do have quite a diverse team here as well, Natalie. I'd love for you, as the sport continues to grow, if you have any stories or any advice you can share our community as a whole. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I grew up in Midland, Texas, which is like I'll just say that I was like the only Black person at my school and on the swim team. So, but it wasn't like honestly, I didn't really focus on that. I kind of just looked at things from sport, like I'm going to beat her or we're going to go here and we're going to swim. In terms of diversity, swimming obviously is not diverse for to have African Americans in the sport. And so for instance, in 2015, I was part of the top 3 swimmers who went 1, 2, 3. Me, Leah Neal, and Simone Manuel were 1, 2, 3 in the 100 freestyle, which is something that's never happened before. And like, obviously hindsight is 2020. So I look back and I'm very proud of the accomplishments that the 3 of us have made. But at the time, like, it didn't cross my mind because I just didn't really understand the type of moment that we're all having. And so those types of things make me, I just wish that I was a little more aware. But in terms of diversity, that's like one of my favorite things about anything. So I went to Florida because it was so diverse. Like there are people from everywhere. And that's just one of the things that I hold near and dear. I know that there's not a lot of African Americans in the sport. So the way that I want to like impact that is to help them learn how to swim. I've done a couple of clinics and honestly, I found so much more joy than I thought I would. I didn't know if I would enjoy teaching tons of kids how to swim, but just in the hour that I was with them, like you can see how much they enjoyed swimming. And there's obviously such a stigma and all the statistics, and it's just so sad. But in terms of like where I'm at now, I look at it as more of a platform, whereas before I just looked at it as a sport. And now that I'm older, I'm like, this is a platform for me to, even if I don't swim my best, I can still make an impact on how I treat someone. If I see someone who is of a minority on deck, I can make, I can make a difference in their life. I can say, hey, how are you? Do you want to sit with us? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just those types of things that will help minorities in the sport go further. But diversity is definitely something that I think is important for in any sport or in any situation to grow. And so that's just my take on it. But yeah, I understand that there's a long way to go, but I definitely do want to help in any way that I can.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything that you are doing. Absolutely.
Thank you.
We are 9:41. I don't want to take up too much more of your time here. So this is actually going by way too fast here.
We talk a lot.
The last
and
question.
I'm so busy today.
Yeah, so much to do. I mean, really, you're taking away from my whole schedule I got of sitting on the couch. I'm just playing.
Basically, I mean, if you were to narrow down our culture here at Rose Bowl to one word, it would be team, right? And we've already heard a lot from both of you on that, and even more in terms of talking to Jack, going through ISL stuff at Georgia, and talking to Greg Troy at Florida, and hearing how both of them would rely on you without a doubt on relays, and just you're that kind of team players and just relay swimmers, which I say with the highest amount of respect possible, because relays are everything for us at Rose Bowl. Can you guys share just kind of how you guys go about team, even a little bit more than you already have?
Yeah, I mean, everything that was saying, like I said, it got me so hyped up just to get back to practice. And I think environment that you're in is very important. And I see, Jeff, from the little bit that I keep up on Instagram, it was before the Vegas championship. Y'all had a championship of your own, and it came down to the last relay, and then you won. I mean, that got me hyped up. And it's, just because it's like you see more than just an individual coming together for a greater purpose, so to speak. But honestly, Nat has fired me up more in relays than probably anyone else, with the exception of like the Georgia team, like when we had relays at NCAAs. So, and when we were in contention of like getting top 2 or something. So, I mean, Nat is intense, y'all. Like and the thing is, I would consider myself intense. I know I'm always like smiling and we're always like joking around, but when it's business, it's business. And how Nat said, like at practice, we are making each other better. And I think there was one practice where I was like, yo, it's a war zone right now. And then we laugh about it. Like practice then is done, and then we get to put all that aside because, we're just working. We're working, we put it aside. And yeah, whenever there's a relay, I mean, Nat says she loves relays. And I had gotten nervous about relays because I typically always had let off because of like backstroke. And Jack Bowerly in Georgia would put me first for freestyle. So I never had to be like in the, second, third, fourth. And Nat says she like loves chasing people down, loves being in the race, like loves, like, she's like, it's for the team. And it just gets me hyped. And so like she said it like perfectly, right? Like her energy rubs off on me, mine may rub off on her, and it just like grows that team aspect. And like I had said about, someone being fast and it inspiring you, like you said, Jeff, like I agree with you. I think coming into next season, times will be dropping and dropping and dropping. I mean, when you see a fast time, anyone sees a fast time, they're like, well, if they could do it, I can. I just have to work towards it or whatever. And it's like that atmosphere is aided by the teammates that you have around you. And it's myself, Melanie Margalis, and Natalie. We're the only 3 girls on the post-grad group. Oh, Megan Kingsley. Well, but Mel, Nat, and I do the most racing together at practice. And then it's just all dudes. The rest is just all dudes. And which we still beat down on all the time. But yeah, it's like just us, and we just keep making each other better. But there's no animosity because we're like, wow, she pushed me to another level. She pushed me beyond what I maybe even thought was possible. And the same thing goes for relays. It's like, when you're yelling behind the box, like, let's go, like beat energy standard, like they suck, and like we want to come together as a team and be the best that we can possibly be. And amazing things happen, I think, when there's a common goal in mind. And when people believe in you, it's like one of the best feelings ever. You should always believe in yourself, but when someone else believes in you too, that's very special, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, like everything Liv said is true. Like, I also think it has to do with your mentality. So like, say we're at practice, there's definitely been times, and I know you guys have experienced it too, where you're at practice and there's somebody that you always race against, right? And you're not having a good day. Woe is me. You're feeling sorry for yourself. And like, they're beating you or whatever. It's easy to be like, okay, well, like I didn't see them at weight. So like it's easy to just like say things to make yourself feel better. But once you flip your mentality to, like she said, if they can do it, I can too, no matter the circumstances. I like to look at things objectively. Now, that's not always the easiest way to look at things, but when you have something objectively, it is objective. It's not subjective. You didn't think about it. It is what it is, and it's the facts, right? So it's like, I'm tired is a good example. It's fine if you're tired, but like the work still has to get done. And like, if you want to throw a tantrum about it, if you want to scream and yell about it, then that's fine. But that's just what has to be done. And once you make that flip and you start thinking like that, like, okay, this has to be done. This has to be done. I got to get this work done. Things will start to happen. And that's kind of how I am wired. And so when we're at a meet and we're in Italy and the crowd is screaming and like we have a chance to win, it's not that I go to some crazy place, but like I have 125,000% in all my teammates. I know, like I put so much effort into them. Like I know what they're capable of. I am like expecting them to do what they're going to do and what they do. And once I do that, I bring myself into the conversation. So I'm like expecting so much of myself. And like Liv said, the thing that like gets me is being able to run people down. Like close races, like my heart could pump out of my chest, but that's how I know that I'm about to have a really good swim because like for example, freshman year SECs, it's my first SECs. And if for some of you guys who are about to go to college, if you decide to go to SEC school, that's
you should.
That you can but SECs is unlike any other because it's guys and girls together, where it's not like a separate guys meet, girl meet. And so it's really loud, like deafening, and the energy is crazy. And this particular year, the girls' events were first. I don't think they do that anymore, but it's like I'm the anchor for the 2 medley relay, and we're like, I don't know, I think we're like 4th or something like that. And I'm not kidding you, my heart was in my throat. Like, that's when I had
like just got up there.
Like, excuse me, I'm sorry. But that race is where I had an outer body experience. And I really don't know how I went that fast. But since that moment, I know like when I start to feel like that, that's how I know I'm going to swim fast. So getting your teammates hype in practice and being able to carry that to me, that's really key. But yeah, I mean, I'm just wired that way. I just like the louder the crowd, the faster I'll go. So, and I think that's true for a lot of people, but you just have to pick the energy from your teammates. Like you don't want to have a relay mate that's like, okay guys, well, whatever happens, happens. No,
no. Or like the one person was like, I'm so tired, y'all. I don't know what's gonna happen here. Like, I hope you guys got it. Y'all got it.
Want that.
Like, I'm gonna just be that guy. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But it's also like, so you say, the crowd gets you hype, as it does me, right? Like the louder the crowd, the faster you'll go. But at practice, I mean, there's no cheering section. So when you get yourself hype at practice, and when you do incredible things at practice, you're like, blueprint, I've done it already. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just do it at a meet, and it's going to come second nature to me. So everything you guys do at practice or don't do, it will show up at a meet. Like event, maybe not the first meet, but it eventually will catch up to you, doing or not doing those certain things.
Yeah.
So work hard, y'all.
Perfect. I love that both of you guys talk about team of how you can impact your teammates over anything else, and how your actions and what you do to impact your teammates. It's perfect. We'll go on to some questions and answers.
Sorry.
What's
I
that?
just have one more thing.
Go for it.
I know there's a lot of like, so Liv and I are very outgoing and we're very loud and like we are, and personally, I would say that's kind of how that's how I use my leadership skills, because I know that I'm not shy and I know that I can like get people riled up, whether it be by making them laugh or being intense. But like, you know, there's other ways to lead and there's other ways to hype your teammates up. Like, say you're not the loudest or say you're not like the most outgoing, but you can still lead by example. You can still like feed off of that and you can still have an amazing swim, but you don't have to be the one who's like, yeah guys, let's go. Like you can just be the one who has an amazing swim and everybody's like, okay, well I guess we need to follow suit then. Like
That's like Mel.
Yeah, that's Mel.
Like Mel's quiet and she leads by example and you're like, you know, she's like silent killer, you know, like, yeah. So there are different types of styles for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, we do have a few questions if you guys don't mind. We have a few more coming in. I'll just go down the list. Where do you guys live at? So I guess
like home or to train?
I guess where are you at home now, and then training you're at Athens, right?
I live in. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I live in Prattville, Alabama. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's like near Montgomery, Alabama, in the middle of the state. And yeah, it's pretty quiet here. So
I'm in Chicago, Glenview, Illinois. No, I live in Glenview, Illinois. It's a suburb of Chicago, and that's where I'm at right now. But we both live in Athens, Georgia, to train.
Gotcha. So swimming is a sport. It's just kind of still growing basically as a professional sport. Liv, you said you're still young, so I would assume that you'd plan on swimming for a while. Do you guys plan on swimming as professionals for a while if the opportunity presents itself?
I certainly think so. I mean, I love swimming, so I love just being in the water. What drove me crazy for the longest time, I mean, we were out for a good bit of the water, was just not being able to like be in the water. So when I came home, my parents have like a big like soaker bathtub, which I don't have in Athens. So I was like, oh, finally, like I get to just like feel the water. So I love it. And I love like pushing my body. I like working. So even if I didn't get it with swimming, I would like go for a run or something or lift weights or whatever it may be. But as long as my body lets me do it, I will continue to do it. I will continue to do it. And especially with ISL, like I'm going to keep going, you know, and I do consider myself young. Like I want to keep swimming for several more years but then I'm going to be like 30 and do I have to like get married? Like, I don't know what society will tell me to do, but yeah, I don't know. But yes, I will continue swimming.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in there until I can't do it anymore.
Yes.
All right.
So you'll keep seeing me, basically. Yeah. I mean, ISL like is amazing, and it can only get better. But what I just enjoy, like Liv said, I love, like at the end of the day, like, man, I worked hard today, and I love being in shape. Like I hate being out of shape, so like I have to swim. So yeah, I'll be swimming.
That's perfect. Actually, real quick, we talk about ISL and energy. I have to ask you guys. I think team, it takes a little bit longer to build, the same as an NC2A kind of tie to your school. But energy wise, would you guys say NC2As, SECs, or ISL? The most energy.
ISL.
ISL.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I was about to like. I was about to like throw up the day of the championship in Vegas. Like both days, it was just so nerve-wracking. I mean, it's just that situation is like unique because it's all of the best international swimmers in the world, and you're like, okay, no pressure, you know. SECs is a little different, but you definitely have like a different team environment. Still to this day, one of my favorite meets is Illinois High School State, because the energy, the atmosphere there.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you make the most of any environment you're in. You can create that like energy yourself, I think, too.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll get a couple more in here. What kind of land training are you doing right now?
Well, if you guys have seen me on Instagram, I don't know if you follow me, the Fenice Slide Triland Trainer is lit. You guys should all purchase one, 20% off.
Is she about to drop her code?
Code Olivia Ice, 20% off. But yeah, I've been using that. I'm very fortunate enough. My parents have a gym downstairs. I know Nat has a gym at her place too. I've just been going on walks though too, just to get some fresh air, just to switch up the routine.
Okay.
Yeah, I do Peloton, so I like ride the bike a lot. And I've actually found like a lot of joy in it because it's something to focus on that's just completely different with different goals. And just a whole different animal, still really hard. I usually don't sweat. Like I'm not like one of those heavy sweaters, but I'm like drenched after any class that I take. And I find so much like, I feel so strong after. So I do that and I just do my weight training like normal. And I mean like I'll go for a couple walks, but like that's not there's a lot of hills here. So I'm really not trying to go for that many walks, but I try to do a little some.
Gotcha. All right. Well, it's been about an hour. I know we need to get going to different things as well. Our coaches have some meetings for their groups today as well. Both of you, I can't thank you enough for spending the time and for sharing your stories and your insight. It was incredible for me to hear, and I know our families and our swimmers will absolutely love it. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And we'll hopefully we will be cheering the Condors on this fall again.
Oh, we're taking it.
We're taking that shit, baby.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
See you later.
Bye, y'all. Thank you for having us.
Bye.